This simply should not be happening in our peaceful and well-studied solar system. We have always considered our home, Earth, to be an absolutely unique and irreplaceable oasis in the vast darkness of infinite space. It is the only place known to us where vast oceans splash on the surface and long rivers flow.
For centuries, scientists were absolutely certain that liquid water on the surface was an exclusive privilege of our Earth.
But we pointed our best telescopes at one of Saturn's moons and discovered something truly terrifying there. The temperature in this terrifying place drops to an incredible 180 degrees below zero on the Celsius scale. Under such extreme and harsh conditions, ordinary water becomes harder than the strongest earthly granite or basalt. All the massive cliffs and towering mountains on this moon consist entirely of completely frozen water ice. This distant world takes our most vital resources and mercilessly transforms them into lifeless building material. Our familiar earthly reality is turned inside out there, and this makes us shudder with a deep, cold horror. Through the moon's thick atmosphere, it is completely impossible to make out the stars or the distant, dim sun. Titan is tightly shrouded in a thick layer of impenetrable orange smog that hides its surface from any outside observers.
This thick veil consists of complex organic molecules that are continuously formed high in the sky under the influence of radiation.
They slowly and inexorably settle onto the surface, covering everything around them with a thick layer of sticky, dark sludge. It is as if the cosmos has deliberately hidden this incredible chemical laboratory from our curious, inquiring eyes. The scariest part is not the chemical composition of these deadly alien lakes and rivers at all. The main paradox is that precisely such complex conditions could become the ideal cradle for entirely new life. We have always sought our own cozy copies in the universe, relying on the rules of Earth's warm biology. But Titan laughs at our human naivety, offering a completely different path for the development of living beings. And if this path is indeed possible, then our notions of loneliness in space are fundamentally mistaken. According to everything we learned in school, space should be a simple and straightforward place. We always thought we clearly understood the fundamental boundaries between living nature and completely lifeless cosmic matter. Our classical science has established a strict concept of a habitable zone around every star in the universe. This is the ideal distance where a planet receives just enough heat for water to remain in liquid form.
Scientists have always firmly believed that venturing beyond this narrow zone guarantees the complete absence of any life.
Relying on these ironclad facts, astronomers have spent decades scanning the night sky in search of water-bearing planets. We were looking for worlds that would resemble our cozy Earth in size and temperature. Any deviations from this strict gold standard were automatically excluded from the lists of potentially habitable places. Planets closer to the star were considered scorching furnaces, while distant worlds were deemed eternal icy tombs. This straightforward logic gave us a sense of calm and confidence in the scientific validity of our approach. All our space programs were originally tailored to this convenient and simple Earth-based model. Robots on Mars diligently dig through dry red sand in search of the dried-up channels of ancient waterways. Satellites meticulously measure the amount of water vapor in the atmospheres of distant exoplanets that are completely out of our reach. Humanity spends colossal budgets to find even a single tiny drop of the liquid we are familiar with. We desperately seek our own reflection in this endless and terrifyingly vast mirror of the universe. We sincerely believed that we fully understood all possible variations of planetary scenarios.
If there is no liquid water on a planet, then there can be no active geological or weather changes.
Soil erosion, cloud formation, and precipitation were considered an exclusively Earth-based phenomenon in this system. Other worlds could boast only of dust storms or dry volcanic eruptions without the slightest hint of liquid. This picture of the world was incredibly boring, but it gave us a sense of our own grand uniqueness. Generations of students were raised on this classic dogma of our green planet's absolute exceptionalism. We took pride in the fact that Earth had won this incredible cosmic lottery of ideal temperature conditions. It seemed to us that we lived in the most elite and comfortable neighborhood of an immense and empty galaxy. The rest of the universe was perceived simply as a cold backdrop for our successful biological species. Our human pride swelled to incredible proportions with every new confirmation of this elegant theory. It waited quietly for its moment in the shadow of Saturn's enormous rings, shrouded in a thick, impenetrable fog. This enigma was preparing to deliver a crushing blow to all our fundamental notions of reality. And when we finally turned our full attention to it, our familiar world collapsed forever. But our ideal calculations were completely shattered by reality upon a detailed study of Titan's atmosphere. Instead of the expected dead silence, spacecraft recorded incredibly turbulent and complex activity. The data from the probes do not match any of our classical planetary models at all. We have discovered a world that does not merely mimic Earth, but does so with a frightening chemical sophistication.
This is the first truly brutal shattering of our expectations, one that has sent shockwaves through the scientific community.
Instruments show that clouds on this moon form, drift across the sky, and pour down in torrential rains. However, this heavy precipitation has absolutely nothing in common with the water we are accustomed to and consider safe. Powerful streams of liquid methane, which we use on Earth as cooking gas, pour down from the sky onto the surface. This highly flammable hydrocarbon gathers into streams, erodes rocks, and forms spectacular waterfalls. What we consider a volatile fuel is the primary driving force behind the entire local ecosystem there. The moon's surface is covered with strange dunes that stretch for thousands of kilometers along the equator.
But these hills are not made of the silicon sand we are familiar with, as in Earth's scorching Sahara.
They are formed from tiny particles of frozen plastic and complex hydrocarbons falling straight from the sky. Local methane winds carefully gather this organic snow into perfectly smooth and towering ridges. This world is constantly shaping itself from materials that on Earth are produced only in chemical plants. Every new analysis of atmospheric gases brings more and more alarming and completely inexplicable surprises. We find there a huge number of complex molecules that usually serve as building blocks for the origin of life. Consequently, there must be some hidden and very powerful source on Titan replenishing these losses. Something hidden deep within this moon is constantly releasing new portions of methane to the surface. This paradox forces us to view all our previous space achievements with great trepidation. Our picture of a safe and completely predictable world has suffered a colossal, irreparable crack. We suddenly realize that the universe is capable of brilliantly mimicking Earth's conditions using chemicals that are completely alien to us. This strange orange sphere poses an open challenge to all of our modern, proud science. And this is only the first level of the horror that lies hidden beneath the thick clouds of this unfriendly moon. And here, the situation becomes significantly worse for our human perception of reality. This is not just a curious chemical anomaly that is interesting to observe through a powerful telescope from a safe distance. If a human were to miraculously find themselves on the surface of this moon, they would experience a true sensory nightmare. The physical conditions there create an utterly hostile environment that forgives not even the slightest technical error.
We move from dry scientific facts to primal terror in the face of this utterly alien nature.
The first thing a hypothetical astronaut would encounter is incredible optical blindness and complete disorientation. Thick orange smog absorbs almost all sunlight, turning a clear day into an endless, eerie twilight. Visibility on the surface is severely limited, as if you were in the very center of the strongest sandstorm on Earth. The lighting there is so strange and dim that the human eye loses the ability to accurately judge distances. The surrounding landscape merges into a single, terrifying mass where it is impossible to distinguish solid ground from methane quicksand. Atmospheric pressure on this moon is 1.5 times that of Earth, creating incredible physical pressure. But the main problem lies in the density of this icy and extremely toxic gaseous ocean. Due to the extreme cold, the air there is so thick and viscous that moving through it is incredibly difficult. It would feel less like a normal walk under the Earth's sky and more like moving slowly along the bottom of a pool filled with syrup. Every movement would require a tremendous effort, and the spacesuit would constantly struggle against the resistance of the environment. The surrounding landscapes only intensify this oppressive sense of primal existential anxiety. The rain of liquid methane falling from the sky consists of huge, heavy droplets moving very slowly. Due to low gravity, they fall onto the helmet like thick clumps of transparent oil, leaving greasy marks. This world looks beautiful in retouched pictures, but in reality, it is a veritable chemical hell. With every step on this surface, a person will feel their absolute and pitiful insignificance. We make our bold plans to colonize Mars because it at least vaguely resembles our deserts. Every detail of this landscape screams that humans absolutely do not belong here, but our unquenchable curiosity compels us to keep making plans to send new missions there. Scientists are developing special submarines to dive into these dark methane seas. We stubbornly plunge into this deadly chemical trap, completely unaware of its most important secrets. Because the real horror lies not in the poisonous air, but in what might inhabit this environment. If this harsh and inhospitable environment is indeed real, it changes absolutely everything in our understanding of life. Astrobiologists have long scoffed at the idea of alternative biochemistry, dismissing it as the stuff of cheap science fiction. But data from Titan is forcing them to nervously reevaluate their most fundamental scientific dogmas. What if classical water-based carbon life is just one of many possible options in the universe? And what if, right now, creatures are swimming in these methane seas that breathe hydrogen and drink ethane? Scientists have created computer models proving the theoretical possibility of methane-based life. In such organisms, cell membranes would consist not of lipids, as in ours, but of special nitrogen compounds. These structures, called azotosomes, are incredibly flexible and stable even at a temperature of -180 degrees. They are capable of performing all the basic functions of a normal cell, providing reliable protection and transport of substances. Theoretically, biology could function perfectly well without a single drop of warm liquid water. If this hydrocarbon-based life truly exists, it must be incredibly slow and deliberate. Due to the extreme cold, all chemical reactions proceed thousands of times slower than in our warm bodies. The movements of these creatures would be imperceptible to the human eye, and their life cycle would stretch over millennia. We could stand right on top of them, look them straight in the eye, and not even realize they are living, thinking organisms. Our impatient biology is simply incapable of synchronizing with such an eternal, frozen rhythm of existence. Every new discovery in the chemistry of this moon only adds fuel to the fire of this disturbing hypothesis. Vinyl cyanide has recently been detected in the atmosphere, the ideal substance for constructing those very cryogenic membranes. Its concentration in Lake Leguia alone is sufficient to create billions of potential alien cells. Nature seems to have carefully prepared all the necessary components for the construction kit from which this alternative horror is assembled. And the probability that these components have lain idle for millions of years approaches absolute zero. Titan is no longer just a strange moon with beautiful methane clouds in photos from orbital telescopes. It has become the most terrifying testing ground for our readiness to encounter the truly alien. It is a place where the laws of our warm biology cease to apply, giving way to a grim alternative reality. And the most terrifying thing is that this icy hell conceals yet another, even deeper mystery. Now comes the most important step in understanding the full scale of this catastrophic cosmic mystery. If Titan's surface frightens us with its alternative chemistry, its depths conceal something even more grandiose. Beneath this ice crust, as hard as steel, lies a veritable colossal ocean of liquid warm water. Gravity measurements and analysis of the moon's orbit provide irrefutable proof of this vast underground reservoir. This means that a single celestial body hosts two completely different and potentially habitable worlds. The thickness of this icy shell is tens of kilometers, reliably isolating the inner ocean from the toxic surface. There, in absolute, eternal, and impenetrable darkness, lies more water than in all of Earth's oceans combined. This water does not freeze, thanks to the heat generated by the friction between the crust and the rocky core under the influence of Saturn's gravity. At the bottom of this incredible bottomless sea, there may be hot hydrothermal vents releasing nutrients. Exactly such vents on Earth once became the cradle of all carbon-based life known to us. If there is life in this hidden lower ocean, it has evolved in conditions of absolute optical darkness. For these creatures, there is no concept of a starry sky, the cycle of day and night, or distant space. Their universe is strictly bounded by a cold, rocky floor below and an impenetrable icy ceiling above. They may attain a high level of intelligence, but they will never guess at the existence of other planets and galaxies. Their entire philosophy and science will be built on the concept of a closed, eternal water bubble. This idea deals a crushing blow to our human pride and our quest for interstellar contact. How many such intelligent but utterly isolated civilizations might be hiding within our own solar system? Europa, Enceladus, Ganymede. All these icy moons hide similar warm bodies of water beneath their surfaces. They may be densely populated, but their inhabitants are physically incapable of sending a radio signal through the thick ice. Space may be full of intelligent life, forever locked away in its dark, watery prisons. Every time we look at this orange, misty sphere, we feel a growing sense of unease. It beckons us with its mysteries, yet at the same time presents insurmountable physical barriers to unraveling them. This world exists by its own, incredibly complex rules, which we are only just beginning to timidly comprehend. And the deeper we delve into its secrets, the more we realize our own insignificance. Our Earth-based science seems like a child's toy compared to this gigantic and deadly laboratory. If our models don't work here, in the orbit of a neighboring gas giant, then they don't work anywhere. The universe is far more complex, far more cunning, and far more dangerous than our university textbooks describe. And this discovery directly concerns not only distant stars, but also our own future as a species. Because if life is that adaptable, we may find ourselves completely unprepared to encounter it. If our astronomical models are wrong here, they may be fundamentally wrong everywhere. This is not merely a philosophical musing about distant galaxies, it directly concerns our own safety. For decades, we have sent messages into space, hoping to encounter civilizations similar to us in their thinking. Scientists sincerely believed that aliens also love water, breathe oxygen, and appreciate a warm climate. But the discovery of alternative biochemistry on Titan completely shatters this naive and very anthropocentric concept. We won't even be able to exchange technologies or trade material goods because of this colossal difference in environments. Earthlings' metal structures will simply crumble from the extreme cold in their natural habitat, and their fragile cryogenic technologies would instantly melt at our normal room temperature. Our diplomacy would reach an absolute impasse because we would have not a single common point of contact. This would not be contact with fellow sentient beings, but with completely unknowable and alien physical entities. And this is where the most crucial and terrifying question of our existential cosmic loneliness arises. What if the universe is indeed full of intelligent life, but it is distributed across non-overlapping chemical domains? Water-based civilizations live on their warm planets, hydrocarbon-based ones on their cold moons, and silicon-based ones in scorching lava. They are physically unable to interact with one another, remaining forever locked in their temperature-based reservations. The galaxy may be teeming with life, but every form is doomed to eternal, impenetrable, isolating solitude. This concept makes our situation even more tragic than the hypothesis of a complete absence of extraterrestrials in space. To know that there is a flurry of activity all around you, and to have no way of participating in it. It is like being locked in a soundproof glass jar in the middle of a noisy and colorful carnival. We can observe the stars, make guesses, but we will never be able to shake hands with our neighbors in the universe. The cruel laws of physics and chemistry have erected absolutely insurmountable and invisible walls between us. But even more terrifying is the thought that these different forms of life might one day come into conflict. If the galaxy's resources are ultimately limited, different species will inevitably begin a struggle for survival. How do you fight an enemy whose chemistry is so alien that conventional weapons are simply useless? Titan has opened our eyes to our own vulnerability and the limitations of human perception of reality. It has shown that we are just one of countless variations in the vast catalog of the galactic architect. And this realization makes us feel incredibly small, alone, and very frightened, because the most terrifying discovery awaits us not in deep space, but right under our feet. This frightening problem is rapidly ceasing to be purely academic and distant from ordinary people. If exotic life can thrive in such extreme conditions, then it may be much closer to us. Biologists have begun to seriously discuss the blood-curdling theory of the existence of a so-called shadow biosphere right here on Earth. This means that microorganisms with completely different biochemistry may be living on our home planet right now, and they have been sharing this world with us for billions of years in complete and utter invisibility. We have always explored the microcosm using classical tools designed to detect standard DNA and RNA. Our microscopes and reagents are capable of recognizing only that form of biology which shares common roots with us. If an organism with an alternative structure is present in a soil or water sample, our tests will simply ignore it. It will not react, will not stain with chemical markers, and will remain completely unnoticed by the scientist's eye. We may literally be stepping on these aliens every day, completely unaware of their physical existence. Imagine a parallel ecological system operating according to its own chemical rules right here in our own homes. These creatures may feed on materials we consider completely inedible and emit gases unknown to us. They do not compete with us for our usual food and do not cause the classic diseases known to medicine. This is precisely why we have lived so long and so carelessly under the illusion of our complete biological solitude on the planet. This shadow biosphere could have survived all mass extinctions because the laws of our nature simply do not apply to it. This concept brings us back to the harsh realities of Titan and its poisonous methane lakes in the darkness. If shadow life exists even on the comfortable Earth, then on Saturn's moon, it may be the absolute dominant force. This orange world may be teeming with creatures whose chemistry is so aggressive that it could dissolve any of our spacesuits. An exotic microorganism with a different chemistry could easily seep through the filters, because the filters aren't designed for its size. A single such careless act could trigger an invisible chain reaction that would quietly and inexorably destroy the entire biosphere. The universe is like a vast, dark forest where millions of completely different species prefer to hide in the gloom. And we are the only fools who have turned on a bright flashlight and are shouting loudly into this frightening, unknowable abyss. The most frightening thing is that we might come face to face with this life and not even realize it. Imagine that our advanced research probe has successfully landed on the soft, methane-covered shore of a deep lake on Titan. High-resolution cameras transmit a stunningly clear image of this alien, misty, and cold landscape back to Earth. Scientists peer intently at the monitors, desperately hoping to see even the slightest movement or a familiar structure. But all they see are strange rocks, sticky organic sludge, and the slow flow of a viscous chemical river. And at this very moment, a form of life invisible to us may be teeming right in front of the lens of an expensive camera. Perhaps those strange, porous rocks in the background are actually giant colonies of local microorganisms. Perhaps the thick fog that so hinders our optics is a vast, distributed neural network. We look for creatures resembling Earth's animals or bacteria, possessing symmetry and clear signs of directed movement. But alternative biochemistry may give rise to forms that we classify as utterly lifeless and boring geology. For us, life is always associated with rapid metabolism, reproduction, and a clear response to powerful external stimuli. But in cryogenic conditions at minus 180 degrees, time flows according to completely different, incredibly slow laws. A creature on Titan might take a single breath over the course of an entire Earth year of observation. A single conscious movement by this strange organism could take a whole decade or even a century by our standards. Our probe simply won't survive there long enough to record this terrifying, monumental slowness of existence. The response of this biosphere may be as alien and unpredictable as its internal workings. They may not use lasers or missiles to destroy our primitive, metallic, earthly intruder. Local microorganisms might simply alter the chemical composition of the environment around the probe, turning plastic and steel to dust. We fly to other planets with the confidence of masters, but in reality we are merely foolish children with sharp sticks. And the deeper we venture into the dark forest of the universe, the greater the chance of stumbling upon something utterly unknowable. Titan is not just an interesting target for yet another expensive mission by NASA or other agencies. It is a rigorous test of intellectual maturity for our entire human species. Until we learn to see life in all its crazy and impossible manifestations, we'd better stay home. Because if we're incapable of recognizing the inhabitants of a neighboring planet, we certainly won't survive an encounter with the galaxy. Space has no tolerance for narrow-mindedness and mercilessly destroys those who refuse to accept its terrifying diversity. We have reached the very edge of our understanding of the surrounding universe and peered into a terrifying abyss. All our previous hopes for joyful interstellar contact have been shattered by the harsh chemical reality of this moon. Titan has proven to us that nature possesses an infinite imagination that far exceeds the bounds of human logic. We are forced to completely rethink our place in this incredibly strange, cold, and hostile cosmic space. Earth is no longer a unique benchmark for life. It is merely one of millions of possible paths of development. We are incredibly small and utterly powerless in the face of this global, universal chemical unknown. All we can do is stand silently before the thick orange fog and formulate timid, anxious scientific conjectures. For many years, popular science fiction promised us an exceptionally bright and clear cosmic future among our brothers in reason. It is physically impossible to simply switch off our basic human curiosity at will. We will inevitably continue to launch our fragile spacecraft into this ominous chemical void. Our young species is evolutionarily programmed to continuously seek the truth about the universe, no matter how terrifying it may be. We are constantly driven forward by a thirst for knowledge and the hope of finding at least some meaning in this endless, cold darkness. We simply cannot stop halfway to unraveling the great mysteries, even if it threatens our very existence. Our familiar reality turned out to be completely different from what we had always proudly and naively imagined. It is far deeper, far darker, and incomparably more complex than any of our wildest and craziest fantasies. If life can thrive in methane seas at -180 degrees, then the universe is truly boundless in its horror. And we still have absolutely no idea whether we will even be able to survive the realization of this colossal truth. Perhaps we would be much better off remaining forever in ignorance on our small, warm, and safe planet.